Charlie Munger's invisible law that separates failures from winners. Look at your life. Look at the people around you. You've seen it. Some people fail. Some people win. And you've always wondered why. It's not about luck. It's not about intelligence. There is an invisible law of success, a silent force that explains why some people fail, while others with the same skills and opportunities win. It's a law so powerful, it separates the average from the elite, the bankrupt from the billionaire, and almost everyone ignores it. This isn't a video about get-rich-quick schemes. This is about a fundamental law of the universe that Charlie Munger spent his entire life mastering. It's a truth so simple, it's been hiding in plain sight. The scale is tipping, and the secret to its balance is about to be revealed. 1. The law of consequence, the unseen divide. The invisible law is the law of consequence. Munger would say that most people live their lives trying to achieve a good outcome. They focus on what they need to do to succeed. They are obsessed with positive actions. But the true winners live by a different rule. They are obsessed with avoiding bad outcomes. They understand that success is not found by seeking it, but by avoiding the things that guarantee failure. The average person asks, "What do I need to do to be happy?" The winner asks, "What do I need to avoid to be miserable?" The average person asks, "What do I need to do to get rich?" The winner asks, "What do I need to avoid so I don't go broke?" This is a fundamental inversion of thought, and it is the unseen divide that separates the winners from the failures. He would use the analogy of a doctor. Most doctors are focused on curing a disease once it's already there. But the best doctors, the ones who truly save lives, are obsessed with preventing the disease from ever happening. They are obsessed with hygiene, diet, and exercise. They are not focused on a grand, heroic cure. They are focused on the quiet, unnoticed work of prevention. He would tell you that your life is a medical practice, and you are either a healer or a preventer. The choice you make will determine the outcome of your life. He would challenge you. Are you a creator of good things, or are you an avoider of bad things? The answer to that question will determine your entire life. 2. The folly of the positive mindset. Modern society is built on the myth of the positive mindset. We are told to think positively, to visualize success, and to ignore all negativity. Munger would call this a dangerous delusion. He would say that a positive mindset without a deep understanding of what could go wrong is not a strength, it's a weakness. He would use the analogy of two investors. One is Positive Pete. He only reads good news. He invests in companies with a good story. He smiles, he's optimistic, and he tells everyone he's going to be rich. The other is Realistic Ruth. She spends all her time reading about company bankruptcies. She studies financial scandals and looks for every possible flaw. She isn't negative. She's a realist. Pete is focused on the jackpot. Ruth is focused on not going broke. Every time a company fails, Ruth learns a lesson that Pete will never learn. When the market turns, Pete is wiped out, and Ruth is left with her capital intact, ready to capitalize on the next opportunity. Munger would argue that most people are living their lives like a gambler, hoping for a big win, while the successful are living their lives like a casino, ensuring they never lose. He would tell you that the most important thing you can do is not to think positively, but to think realistically. The world rewards those who see reality for what it is, not for what they want it to be. 3. The psychology of the preventer. Most people are curers. They wait for a problem to happen and then they try to solve it. They wait until they are sick to try to get healthy. They wait until they are in debt to try to save money. Munger would say that the people who succeed in life are preventers. They are obsessed with preventing a problem before it ever happens. This is the psychology of the preventer. A preventer doesn't ask, "How do I get out of debt?" They ask, "What behaviors do I need to avoid so that I never get into debt in the first place?" This is a fundamental shift in thinking. He would say that a life built on prevention is a life of effortless success. You are not constantly fighting fires. You are living in a world where fires rarely happen. This requires discipline and foresight. It requires you to make uncomfortable choices in the present to avoid a painful future. It is a quiet, almost boring path to greatness. The preventer is the person who works out not to get a six-pack, but to avoid a heart attack. They are the person who reads a book on cognitive biases not to become a genius, but to avoid making a stupid mistake. Their success is a result of their foresight, not their action. He'd tell you, a pound of prevention is worth a ton of cure. And the best time to start preventing problems was yesterday. 4. The compounding of avoidance. Everyone talks about compound interest, but Munger would argue that there is a more subtle and powerful force at work in your life, the compounding of avoidance. It's the most powerful form of compounding you will ever experience. He would use a vivid analogy. Imagine your life is a beautiful garden. The foolish gardener spends all his time planting new flowers. He buys the most expensive seeds, he puts them in the perfect soil, and he hopes for the best. But he completely ignores the weeds. He lets them grow, believing they are a natural part of the garden. The weeds slowly but surely choke out the flowers. But the wise gardener spends 90% of his time pulling weeds. He is obsessed with avoiding the things that would choke his garden. He doesn't plant as many flowers, but the ones he has grow effortlessly and are magnificent. His garden flourishes not because he planted a lot, but because he avoided the things that would kill it. He would say that every time you make a bad decision, every time you take on unnecessary debt, every time you get involved with a toxic person, you are creating a small negative interest rate on your life. And over time, this compounds into a massive, unstoppable force of ruin. But the opposite is also true. Every time you avoid a bad decision, every time you refuse to take on debt, every time you cut a toxic person from your life, you are creating a small positive interest rate on your life. This compounds into a massive, unstoppable force of success. He would tell you that a person who simply avoids stupidity will have a profound advantage over a person who is constantly trying to be brilliant. He'd say, the most powerful thing you can do is to be consistently non-stupid. It is the single greatest competitive advantage you will ever have. 5. The unpopular discipline of not knowing. The world rewards people who pretend to know more than they do. It's a psychological flaw known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. But Munger would say that the greatest intellectual advantage you can have is the unpopular discipline of not knowing. He'd argue that the first step to wisdom is admitting your own ignorance. He would say that a person who knows their circle of competence and stays within it will be far more successful than a person who pretends to be an expert in everything. He would say that most people are constantly making decisions outside of their circle of competence, and that is where the most devastating mistakes are made. This is why you see brilliant people fail. They stray outside of what they truly know, and they pay the ultimate price. He would say that the truly great thinkers are not the ones with all the answers. They are the ones who know exactly where their knowledge ends. He would tell you that a truly wise person is not someone who has all the answers. It is someone who has the humility to admit when they don't. He would look you in the eye and ask, are you willing to say, I don't know, in a world that demands you have all the answers? 6. The silent tax on your life. You'd bring up the topic of taxes. He would smile and say that you are worried about the wrong kind of tax. He would tell you about the silent tax on your life. He would explain that the biggest taxes you pay are not to the government. They are to your own bad decisions. He would paint a picture of a young person. They buy a car they can't afford. That's a silent tax on their future. They get involved with a toxic group of friends. That's a silent tax on their mental health. They eat poorly and don't exercise. That's a silent tax on their energy and longevity. These taxes are not visible on a tax form, but they are slowly and relentlessly eroding your life. He'd say that a person who can see these silent taxes and eliminate them will become wealthy in every sense of the word. They will have more time, more energy, and more freedom. all because they stopped paying a tax that no one else even sees. He'd tell you that you are not broke because you don't make enough money. You are broke because you are paying a silent tax on every bad decision you make. He'd ask you, what is the silent tax you are paying right now that is holding you back from the life you want? 7. The architect of the problem when things go wrong. Our first instinct is to find someone to blame. We blame the economy, our boss, our partner, or our circumstances. Munger would say that this is a fatal psychological flaw. He would say that you are the architect of the problem. He would use the analogy of a ship captain. When the ship sinks, the foolish captain blames the storms, the rogue waves, and the bad weather. He rages against the forces of nature. The wise captain, however, immediately looks for the leak in his own ship. He knows that the storm was inevitable, but a crack in his hull was preventable. He would argue that when you look for a single cause for your problems, you are looking in the wrong place. He would say that your problems are not a result of a single bad event. They are the result of a chain of bad decisions that you made. He would tell you that you are the common denominator in all of your failures. By blaming others, you give away all of your power. By accepting that you are the architect of your problems, you reclaim your power to fix them. He would tell you that the most important thing you can do is to stop blaming others and to start looking at the decisions you made that led you to where you are. He'd ask you, are you a victim or are you the architect of your own ruin? 8. The asymmetry of risk and reward. The conversation is almost over. He would leave you with one final profound lesson. He would say that the difference between a life of growth and a life of stagnation comes down to a single courageous act. He would call it the asymmetry of risk and reward. He would use the analogy of a race. Every other runner is focused on winning. They are taking shortcuts, pushing others, and sprinting to get ahead. But there is one runner who is focused on not falling. He is focused on his balance, on avoiding the obstacles, and on maintaining his pace. While the other runners are falling, crashing, and stumbling, this one runner stays on his feet. He doesn't have to win by being the fastest. He wins by simply not losing. He would tell you that the biggest rewards in life are found not by seeking them out, but by avoiding the catastrophic risks that others are willing to take. He'd say that you can win in life by simply not doing the stupid things. It is the most profitable and the most underrated form of wisdom. He'd leave you with this final, powerful challenge. Are you willing to play a different game than everyone else? A game of not losing? 9. The psychology of the why. The world is obsessed with the what. What to do, what to buy, what to say. Most people spend their entire lives focused on the surface-level actions of a problem. Munger would argue this is a fatal psychological flaw. He would say that the true winners are obsessed with the why. They are obsessed with understanding underlying incentives. He would explain that the human brain is a brilliant but lazy machine. It will give you the easiest answer it can find, which is almost always the what. But the real truth, the real understanding, is always found in the why. Why did that business fail? Why did that person behave that way? Munger would say that if you want to understand the world, you must learn to ignore what people say and focus on their incentives. This is the psychology of the why. It requires you to look past the surface and ask the uncomfortable question, what is their real motivation here? He would tell you that the single most important question you can ask is not what should I do, but what are the real forces at play here? He'd ask you, are you a spectator of events, or are you an analyst of incentives? 10. The unpopular discipline of waiting. In our instant gratification culture, we are constantly bombarded with messages to act now, to invest now, to seize the moment. Munger would say this is a powerful psychological trap. He would say that the greatest opportunities in life are not found through action, but through the unpopular discipline of waiting. He would explain that most people are addicted to the feeling of action. They feel like they are being productive when they are busy. But the true genius of Munger and Buffett was their profound understanding of opportunity cost. They knew that by rushing into a mediocre deal, they were giving up the opportunity to find a great one. He would say that a person who is constantly busy is often just running in place. The greatest act of courage you can perform is to sit still and wait for the perfect opportunity to present itself. This is the psychological pain of delaying gratification. It is a pain that most people are unwilling to endure. He would tell you that a person who has the discipline to wait for the perfect pitch will be far more successful than a person who swings at every ball. He'd ask you, "What are you doing today that you would be better off not doing at all?" 11. The halo effect's invisible hand. You've seen this happen. A company with a great product is suddenly assumed to be great at everything else. A person who is charismatic and attractive is assumed to be more intelligent and trustworthy. Munger would say that this is a powerful and dangerous psychological bias known as the halo effect. It is the tendency to let one positive trait influence our perception of a person or a company as a whole. He would argue that this is the enemy of rational thought. It prevents you from seeing reality as it truly is. The halo effect is an invisible hand that fools you into making decisions based on emotion and perception, not on objective facts. It is the reason why people fall for brilliant frauds and why they invest in companies with a charismatic CEO but a weak business model. Munger would say that your goal in life is to see things for exactly what they are, and the halo effect is one of the biggest obstacles to that goal. He would tell you that the most important thing you can do is to be a relentless truth seeker, to always question your first impressions, and to look for flaws in the things you love. He'd ask you, "What is one thing you believe is good that you have never truly analyzed for its flaws?" The conclusion, a vow to your future self, and just like that, the conversation is over. He is gone. The wisdom he shared is now yours. This isn't just a list of ideas. It's a blueprint for a life of fewer problems and greater success. But the blueprint is worthless unless you become its architect. This is not a passive experience. This is a choice, a single life-altering choice you must make now. If this conversation gave you a glimpse of the clarity you've been searching for, there's only one thing to do. Hit that like button as a vow to your future self. Let it be the first act of your rebellion against the psychological forces holding you back. And if you are truly serious about forging a mind of steel and building an invisible moat around your life, then subscribe now. This is your first step toward joining the 1% who choose to think differently. Your life will never be the same. Before you go, I want you to answer one final question in the comments below. What is the one thing you are going to stop doing to change your life? The next move is yours.